Welcome to Chris Cook for YouTube. Today I'm going to be doing great northern beans, and it comes in a bag like this at your local grocery store. I got this at Walmart, and I've already taken the beans out, so I want to show you what you look for when you're cleaning your beans. First of all, anything that's broken like this, or if it's rotten like these, half like that, just old and crumply like that, or sometimes in your northern bean you can find another bean, and this is a pinto bean, but I just went ahead and took the pinto bean out and just to show it to you. And you can find little rocks and little gravel, so you want to clean your beans. So I wanted to show you what to look for that you're going to discard. These are the things that you do not want to use. Now today I'm going to be cooking them in my slow cooker, and I've already put the water in, and I'm going to allow these beans to cook overnight. You don't have to do that. You can cook them in a regular pot for about 3.5 to 4 hours. Cook them on simmer, and then just let them go ahead and cook through. But I'm going to cook this in my slow cooker, and because there's low maintenance when it comes to cooking in a slow cooker, all you have to do is put everything in there, and you're done with it until you come back, stir it a couple of times, and then you're done with it until the meal is done. I chose to use this today. Now, I've already washed my beans, so I'm going to take my beans and put them in here. And that was a 2-pound bag of beans that I'm using. I didn't use them all. I used maybe about a pound and a little bit over, maybe about 1.25 pounds that I used in here. So now I have my beans in here, and I'm going to add to my beans a small chopped onion, a 1/4 of a spoon full of this is garlic, minced garlic, along with the juice. Now you don't have to do it. Some people just cook their beans with just beans, but I don't do that. This is the way I do mine. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar, and the sugar is just to give the beans balance. You really won't taste a sweeter bean. That won't happen, but it'll give you balance in your taste. And of course, my favorite staple in the world, Lipton onion soup mix. Now I'm going to stir this just a little bit, and I'm going to allow these beans to cook on low overnight. And I don't put salt in my beans. There's a reason for that. I have found in my cooking years that if you put salt in the beans, it tends to split the bean. And I want a whole bean. I don't want to eat pieces of mushed beans, smashed beans. I want a whole bean. So this is the way I cook my beans. Now, if you have a preference to the way you cook them, just end up with a pot full of great northern beans, which is what we're trying to do here today. I'm going to cover them and allow these to cook overnight. Okay, and I'll be back. Blooper moments, because of all the things that I should have told you, I forgot to put in the meat, and I'm trying to do 6 or 7 different things at one time, and that stopped me. But hey, we make mistakes. So I'm going to add, this is the ham bone that I had that was left over from my Easter dinner. Has a little bit of meat on it. I'm going to add that ham bone, and I'm going to add these couple of pieces of chunks of meat that was on the ham bone. And ham bones give your beans, your greens, a very good flavor. And don't throw away your ham bones. At holiday time, if you have ham bones, don't throw them away. When you get ready to cook your beans, it brings in the best flavor to beans. And a lot of times you don't have to add all of the other seasonings that I've added. You can just put that ham bone in there, and you still got a great pot of beans. So now I'm going to cover it, and I'll get back. So let me go ahead and make the cornbread now. And I want to make onion bread today, so inside of here you'll see 2 cups of cornmeal mix. And cornmeal mix is just already has your baking powder, your salt, and everything that's needed inside to make cornbread. So I have 2 cups of cornmeal mix, and I'm going to add to that 1 box of Jiffy mix. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of milk, Now, each cup would require an egg, so we had a cup of Jiffy mix and 2 cups of, that was just really 1 cup of Jiffy mix. And then we had 2 cups of regular cornmeal mix. And I'm going to add, this is just water. This is a little bit less than a half a cup of water. I want to stir that. Okay. Now once I get that stirred up, then I'm going to add my 3 eggs that I have. You can add them one at a time, or you can add them all together. And 3 eggs, I gave it 1 egg for every cup of cornmeal mix that I'm using. Now, because I'm doing northern beans, and because I'm a lover of onions, I'm going to make this cornbread to be onion bread. Okay, and I like to put cooking oil in my cornbread because cooking oil helps to moisten the bread. And I like to put cooking oil in there that has been used, like for my chicken, but I didn't have any today, so I'm going to pour about 1.5 tablespoons of cooking oil that I just heated in that pan as my oven was heating. Now, to this mixture, I'm working from the stove because I want it to be near the skillet, and just go ahead and put it all in the skillet and stick it in the oven. Now, you see the consistency of my cornbread, and I know you can make cornbread a whole lot of different ways, so this is just one of them. Because you can make it with Jiffy mix, without Jiffy mix. You can make it Mexican cornbread, onion cornbread, any kind of cornbread you want to make. And normally what I do is, if I'm going to make my dressing, I put all my seasonings in my cornbread, bake up the cornbread, then I store it in my refrigerator or in my freezer until I get ready to make my dressing, and I have all of my seasonings already over in my dressing. Now I'm going to add 1 cup of chopped up onions. I'm going to stir that in my cornbread. And then I'm going to take this complete mixture and I'm going to add it to, my skillet. And the skillet is greased. Now I'm going to bake this off in my oven at 375 degrees until it is golden brown on the top. Take roughly probably about 30 minutes. And now I'm cooking ground beef in this pot, which I will get back as soon as I chop it all down. This is for my dirty rice. And I have a pot of rice that I've already cooked on the back burner. Inside of the pot of rice, I did put some beef bouillon cubes. So you can see that's the beef bouillon cubes, and that's needed for my rice. So I'll get back to you when I finish chopping up this to get ready to make the dirty rice. Okay, now we're back, and I'm chopping up this ground beef, and I've had the ground beef in the freezer. I took it out last night, put it in my refrigerator. I thought by this morning it would be thawed, but it's not thawed, so I had to hand chop it up. So I'm showing it to you now, and there is, I think this is probably about a 25 ground beef. I don't think it's an 80 because it's carrying entirely too much of the oils. Now I'm going to go ahead now and put the seasonings in. Before you drain it, you add your seasonings. I have 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of parsley. That's dried parsley. I have 1/4 of a cup of onions. Now there's a lot of ways to make dirty rice. Some of the best dirty rice I had in New Orleans. It was made with chicken livers and gizzards all chopped up in it. And I know you probably have your own style that you do with dirty rice, but this is a nice recipe. Feel free to try it. I'm going to have all the ingredients to the recipe listed at the bottom. I have 1/4 cup of diced green pepper, and the onions was diced as well. And I have 1½ tablespoons of Creole seasoning. Now I left this over here, so if you're not familiar with Creole seasoning, that's the type box that it comes in, and that is, I use the one by Zatarain, so this is your Creole seasoning. And this is going to give a good kick to my rice. Now, look, it looks like a lot of the liquids have been absorbed. Really, it hasn't. I still have to strain this. But what I'm going to do is I am going to step away and add maybe about 3 tablespoons of water to this. And let this just simmer cook. And then I'm going to strain it and get ready to add my rice to it. And I'll come back and show you what that looks like. And I know I didn't tell you what my menu was. My menu is pork chops and gravy, dirty rice, Great Northern beans, and onion bread. And of course I have the dessert that I made yesterday. So I'm gonna let this cook for a minute. Now I'm back and I've drained the I've strained this ground beef, and I did get me a little taste test, and man, it is really good. I hope you guys try this recipe. Now I'm going to start to incorporate my rice. Now the reason why you hear that little bit of sizzling, my stove is off, but it's still hot. And I told you that that brown was just the bouillon cubes. And I added 2 beef bouillon cubes to my rice. And I mean, it really smells good, it tastes good. And I told you prior to this, you know, you got your own way of making your dirty rice. This is just a recipe that I hope that you would try, because it's a good recipe and you're going to love it. And rice goes good with beans anyway. And as you can see, got a little bit on my stove. As you can see, my rice turned, it's brown, but my stove is off, so. And what made this rice brown was, of course, the beef bouillon cubes. Now, the rice that I had, what, about a pound of ground beef, and I had 2 cups of rice. So that got me to where I am. And again, I'm going to add the, go ahead and incorporate all of this. I'm going to add the ingredients at the bottom. Now you don't have to mix this so that everything is equally distributed, but you do want to make certain that with some of the rice they get the ground beef and the taste of the other seasonings that you put in. So that's it for the dirty rice. And the only thing I have to do with this now is put a top on it and leave it sitting on the back of my stove. I spilled some water back there. So the dirty rice is made. Cornbread is in the oven. Beans is done on the other side. Let's move to the pork chops. Alrighty, now I'm on the other side of my kitchen, and my slow cooker is on here, so I don't have that much room because, you know, I cooked my beans overnight. I just wanted to show you these pork chops. I did wash them and season them yesterday, so I want to show you these pork chops. Now, with these pork chops, these were first cut, center cut. It was a pack that was on sale, and normally if you buy first cut, you get a cheaper price on them than you do with center cut. But I want to show you, when you're going to be making gravy to pork chops, the best ones to get is the ones that have like a streak of fat. You see that little line of fat running through them. Sometimes it's just a little bit on the end, but that's fine too, because it helps to tenderize the meat. Now, these type of pork chops like this, if you can get some fat on it, that's fine. But when you do like your, I thought I had a couple of center cuts in here. Yeah. If you have like this, for me, this is not a good pork chop to be trying to bring gravy to, because for me it does not tenderize and get as juicy and as moist, and it doesn't just have the same flavor as the ones if you get the ones that have that little fat running in it. And it's the same way with your steaks, you know, that the fat in the steaks, it helps to tenderize the steak. That's the same way it does with the pork chops. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to be tender. Of course it's going to be tender. I'm saying it's not going to be as tender as the ones that have the fat running through it. So I've already seasoned these. I seasoned them last night with salt, pepper, a little bit of onion powder, and garlic powder. And I did put some paprika on it. So I seasoned these last night, and I'm going to go to the stove and I'm going to fry them up. The only thing else that I'm going to do, because I don't want my pork chops to roll on me, because sometimes when you're cooking pork chops, they'll roll up. You'll get like an arch in the center of them, or they'll roll on you. I'm going to snip them right there at the leader. Okay, and that's going to prevent them from rolling up. Okay, and any of the ones that looks kind of like the center cut, I'm just going to snip it. Now, because I'm snipping it in advance, you know, before I fry it, it won't lose any of the flavor, and it won't lose any of the texture. None of that. The only thing it's going to do is to just keep it to lay flat, and it will not roll on me. So I'm going to meet you at the stove. Okay, the cornbread is ready, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the stove. And there it is. And I'm going to put some butter on top of this cornbread. I'm not going to burn my hand again. This butter I took out is frozen. So now we got the cornbread that's ready. And we have the grease that's cooking. Now I prefer, when I'm making pork chops, I prefer to have the grease to be used grease, like my chicken grease, because it adds more flavor if I'm going to do gravy. But I didn't have any used cooking oil, so I had to use fresh cooking oil. So I'm going to get ready to put these pork chops in now. Okay, now as you know, I'm an old school cook, so I use a bag. I use bags to put my flour in and to shake my pork chops around. Now I have a small amount of grease in here. The grease is very limited. Let me turn it up just a little bit. And this is all the grease that I need in order to fry my pork chops, because I'm not going to French fry them. I'm just going to cook them to a point whereas I can take them out and then make gravy to them. So I don't need them to be all uniform in color. Okay? So now some of these pork chops I did cut down, because when you have smaller people eating, you don't want to waste food. So it's better that if you have a humongous, so to speak, pork chops, you can just cut it down like I did that one. Now I'm going to get as many as I can get in this pan, and I'm going to fry them up. And I got quite a few, and I'm going to continue to fry them until I get them all done. Then we're going to make the gravy, and I'll come back and show you after the beginning process of the frying. I'll show you how they will actually look. And I got this larger pot because this is the pot that I'm going to make the gravy in and have everything to be mixed in. So that's why I'm using this bigger pot. So I'll get back to you. I'm going to let them fry up. It's going to take a minute for it to start. And then I'll let them fry up, and then I'll get back to you. I'm going to move this over because I can get one more in there. Now it doesn't matter how tight I put them, because I'm not trying to fry them so that they'll be crispy and golden brown. I'm just trying to get a minimal amount of crust on them, and then make sure that they're partially or semi-done on the inside. Get right back. Okay, we're back, and I'm down to the last bits of them. And this pork chop I would have normally cut, because it's a first cut, you get them in all shapes and sizes. I would have cut it right here in order to make it smaller, but I'll just give that to one of the adults. So I'll put that in that pan, because I'm going to put all the bigger ones on the bottom. And then I'm going to put these on the top. And as you can see, I've finished up some on this side, and I have some on this other side as well. So I'm going to take this pork chop out, or these two pork chops out. And I did take some of the flour from the bag. Now, I did have one of my viewers say that her mom taught her not to take the flour from the bag and to use it because it's contaminated. Now, while that may be true, this is the way that I have been doing it, and I'm not taking the flour and using it overnight. I'm using it in the same process that I'm actually making the gravy in. So I don't see that there's anything wrong with it, but if that's the way her mom taught her, then do it the way your mom taught you. Now I'm going to add, I don't know, about 1/4 of a cup of carnation milk, because I told you that carnation milk velvetizes to this flour mixture, and that's about 3 tablespoons of the used flour that I took from the pork chops. Now I'm going to, you see this grease? I'm going to take this grease out of here, but I will not take the flour grains that's in the bottom. I'm going to leave that in there because that's what I'm going to use to make my gravy. Now, I'm not going to use onions in this particular gravy blend, because I used onions in the dirty rice and I used onions in the cornbread. So the only thing I'm going to do to this is I'm going to add, try to clean my, maybe I'll get another one. I'm going to add some garlic, minced garlic to my flour mixture. About 1/2 of a teaspoonful. And I'm going to add some salt to my flour mixture. Now, although my pork chops are seasoned, my gravy still needs to be seasoned as well. Now, I'm going to go away, get rid of some of this grease that's in the pan, and then I'm going to come back, show you how to do the gravy. Okay, now I poured some of the grease out of this, and I've just added my flour and my garlic and my milk mixture. Now to this, I'm going to add 2 cups of water. And this is going to start to just disintegrate. It's going to come all loose. Now this just looks like straight water to you, but it won't. Now I'm going to go ahead, and the lumps that you see, don't even worry about them, because they're going to, as it boils and as it cooks out, you'll see this gravy will be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the bigger pork chops versus the smaller ones. I'm going to put in my bigger pork chops, and I'm going to put in my smaller pork chops on top of that. Okay. Now, I have my big ones at the bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead, put my smaller ones on top. And like I said, normally I do this with some onion, but today I'm not. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to add to this some more water, because what's going to thicken up my gravy and what's going to make it really good is going to be the crust that's on the pork chops, as well as the mixture that you saw me put in there. So I didn't add onions, but that's fine. This is just going to be done with just the minced garlic and the flour, and of course the carnation milk. So I'm going to put this top on it, bring it to a boil, and I'll get back to you and show you as it cooks along. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now this is the first stages of the gravy. Just going to take the top off of it and show you that it's starting to cream and it's starting to caramelize in color. Okay, so this is going to get thicker as it cooks. Man, those pork chops look good. This gravy will thicken up as it goes, because it still is going to pull off a lot more of the flour that's on the top of the pork chops. And I'm going to let this cook for like, I don't know, maybe about another 20 minutes or so. And then we'll get back. Now I won't come back. I just wanted to show you as the pork chops start to gravy up how it will start to look. So I'm not going to come back until after this process is all through, and this should be super thick gravy. As you can see, when I move the spoon backwards and forth, it's getting thicker. Alright, and as it cooks down, it's going to continue to get thicker. Okay, we're back and everything is done. I've already cut the cornbread and I put it on the plate already, but I want to show you this still smoke coming from it. These pork chops, and I want to show you the gravy on them. Look at that gravy. That gravy is thick and good. Okay, everything is done. Everything is smelling good and looking good. Alrighty, so I'm going to dish up a plate. We're not going to eat right now, but I'm going to go ahead and dish you up a plate so that I can go ahead and get this online. So I'm going to start. I've already cut the cornbread, as you can see, and I have a piece that's on my plate with a few crumbs on it. These are my beans. I just took the crock pot container out, and see how my beans creamed up. That was exactly the way I wanted them. So I'm going to put some beans down on this plate. Let me get a piece of that ham meat that is running from me. Okay. There, I got some beans down on this plate. I'm going to put some of this dirty rice down on this plate. put a couple of these pork chops down on this plate. Let me move this cornbread over just a little bit. And these are tender. These are truly tender. As a matter of fact, when I get it to the table, I'm going to break it for you. Now, it wouldn't be right. Plate is hot. If I didn't just take a little bit of this gravy and put it over the top of that dirty rice. All right. Now I'm going to take this to the table, and I'll meet you right now. I'm at the table, and I'm just going to tilt this cornbread over. That's my onion bread, because I want you to see me fork cut. Look at that. These pork chops are so tender, you can cut them with a fork. You don't even need a knife. Okay? And I put the gravy, a little bit of the gravy over the dirty rice. And then, of course, I got the northern beans and my onion cornbread. And remember, and my perfect beverage, I'm telling you, I love Pepsi. So, I got a Pepsi Cola sitting right here. And it's chilled because I had it in the freezer. And I want to show you this dessert. Remember the dessert that we made yesterday? This is the pineapple dessert. And the pineapple dessert is the perfect complement to this meal, because this is a very heavy meal. You got smothered pork chops and gravy. You got dirty rice with ground beef in it. And of course it has the bell peppers and the onions in it. And then you got the northern beans that's just my dog in the background. You have the northern beans that I cooked yesterday. You have that, and then, or I cooked overnight in the pot overnight, and you got my onion cornbread, you got a Pepsi, and you got your dessert. Okay, the only thing you can do behind a meal like this is take you a nap. So I wanted to let you know, as always, thank you for watching Chris Cook for YouTube. Bye.